very similar experiences where I was, in 2013 and my son was being baptized, and hours before some of the DFW Dr. Hawkins group, they said, well, there's this relic, there's the Maitri exhibit, which I think now is in India, but I got invited down, and it was, wow, it was so much, it was the same experience, so much power, so much energy, so much love. You wanted to hug and love on everyone there.
Yeah. Everybody was loving. Yes.
Where do you think this will go with the information we have now, and the EVDs to IHDs, and where do you think the progression of this is?
There has to be more mathematics and more experimentation. Dr. Tiller was in his 80s when he did this work, and he passed away 2 years ago, which is it's the biggest loss that you can ever imagine. What needs to happen is like a perfect storm. You need the geeky people who have meditation together to be able to see this. You cannot force anyone. People say, Nisha, how about convincing people, the skeptics? And I say, the skeptical are like sophomoric. That's not my job. So they're not evolved enough to be able to see this. But I will tell you this, we are in a huge shift in the world. No matter what you say of all the disasters, underneath that, there is great potential. You and I are that potential because we see the light. It's actually up to you and me and those who are watching this recording to say, okay, what does this mean for intention? What is this map of consciousness? Where do I reside in this? Because the world is perfect as it is, and it is a school for my own evolution. I'm not going to go out there and sort everybody out. I have to sort me out. And that's what you did, Robert. And the Buddha's relics are actually a tool to take us home. When I saw the relics for the first time, I was home. I went back to Mayo Clinic, and by golly, I couldn't function because I realized, and language had no meaning, food had no meaning. I had to call in thoughts to be able to drive my Jeep. The mind was so quiet. It was at home. When you are quiet, then peace naturally follows that. You cannot force this condition on the world. The world is doing what it can do. It's a collective thing. It's organic, alive, and however much you and I can disagree or agree, we have a position. We have to let go of that. So where I see this work of Tiller going, it gives us a way to leap forward confidently into the invisible realms. But it will need to be a perfect storm of the leaders in science, the geeks of science, and not just for profit, is to say, I am ready to do God's will. I am ready to do God's work. And what is God's will? It's the truth. And truth isn't, a weekend workshop where you get something whispered in your ear for $5,000. Because this is what happens. Do this, and you'll have the secret of the universe in your, I laugh about it because I've done those. There's a period of exploration, Robert, for all of us. I was curious about the relics. It was free, and I went, let's go to this monastery in Minneapolis. And my life was never the same. Thank God. Okay? And so the chessboard, like we've talked about, the chessboard, a piece goes, oh, there is no king or queen here. There's a higher field. It's a different chessboard playing. I want to go there first. And then the chessboard evolves even higher and higher. Even Tiller's work is the next level, the next rung of understanding, but it's infinite. And I'll tell you, I write about it because I imprinted the device of Dr. Tiller in the Buddha's relics. Okay, and we'll come back to that, by the way. And I take those imprinted devices, and I gave one to him, and I said, let's do the experiment that is the pH rising. Okay. And you did a litmus paper, but so he put it into a space in his property that had no conditioning. It was a space that wasn't used. It wasn't part of his lab space. So he actually set up a pH meter and the Buddha relic imprinted device about, 6 inches from the meter. Nothing happened. And I thought, how can this be? Our experiment is failing. Nothing happened. And I said, Dr. Tiller, I know what I felt. I mean, my home where the relics came home, even before the relics entered the front door, light bulbs went, a toaster went, it was that much energy. Okay. And there's retrocausality. That means we were anticipating the relics are coming. We're going to prepare. The sofas were out in a storage. We were ready to receive the relics to set up the altar, right?
Mhm.
I know what happened. It felt like I used in the book example from an ordinary living room to Westminster Abbey, like in a blink of an eye. How can this imprinted device not do anything? I wanted it to do something. Like you can see
Yes.
where Nisha's going here.
Yeah.
And then it came, the answer came beautifully. I held it, like you said, in meditation. Help me understand. So Tiller says when you talk about space, it has ordinary space, it has gauge levels. They call it in physics languages gauges. So the atoms and protons, is quantum theory, it's related to that. The gauges of space, and certain materials exchange these when the gauge is correct, when there's
Mm.
a potential for that exchange of material, then you create new ones. So he had the gift of seeing the mathematics. So he knew that there are infinite gauges actually. So we have ordinary space, and he was playing in the next up level in his experiments. He saw that. And that space is full of energy, more than the ordinary space. But when you talk about the Buddha relics, you're beyond Tiller's space. You have to talk really high, okay? So I said, "Oh my God, we're sort of playing around in this space." And Dr. Tiller, we need to write an intention. So he wrote the intention. We respectfully request that the excess free energy contained in this Buddha relic imprinted device manifest in a measurable way. The moment he did that, it took off.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I mean,
And
and he calls me, Dr. Nisha, the lab guys, Walter Dibble is saying it's gone off the charts. And I said, oh my God. Within 2 weeks, we were waiting, nothing's happening. The moment Tiller invited, so this object was intelligent.
mm,
And the Buddha master answered our request. And it was measurable.
that is so wonderful, because wasn't it the same amount? Wouldn't it have turned the space into flames? Like it was that
Yeah,
much,
it would have
like
been like
700 degrees Celsius
seven,
or
eight
something?
hundred degrees. When you do thermodynamic calculations, oh
Yes.
yeah, the place would burn up, right?
Which
So,
boggles the
so
mind, right?
that's what I mean. Thermodynamics, Taylor extended it to contain information. The Buddha relics are like a transformer, very unique kind of transformer, because I told you when they came into my home, the light bulbs went pop, the toaster stopped working, a lot of electronic things just busted, but they needed to go. I think there was a purification happening. And in
Mm,
fact, Dickie Lee Aldershaw, she was the relic custodian. She's a nun from Canada. She was the custodian who went from location to location with the relics. Said, don't worry about that. That happens a lot. wherever the venues for the relic tours are, because you need purification, and this energy is so potent, it will seek out and it will just then equilibrate. Okay. But you could feel this Westminster Abbey in the living room. You're just the you
What an honor.
we were, and people around the neighborhood even said, "Oh, the dog loves your property. We love walking by your home."
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so I mean,
Yeah, that's what I noticed in going to Rosemead to the Way Mountain Temple, and I'm presuming at the Dharma Treasury Temple, it's going to be similar. If you're able to sense the energy field, you get to that block, and just driving up, you can feel it, right? It changes, it
right,
shifts,
you
kind of.
enter the boundary. It's like a boundary almost. And in my family's relic tour, I can tell you, if there were people who came to the door, the front door, and they couldn't step through the threshold, and they would be crying. And some of them went and slept in their car the whole night to be
Mm,
first in line again. I thought, it's there, it's free. You'll be in. Don't worry about it. You can stay as long as you want. But they slept. They couldn't cross the. Something had to happen, I guess. Inner purification. They cried or they slept in their car. And then we say, go take a shower, have a cup of tea, just relax. The relics are here, So
yeah,
there's something, you're right, there's a boundary that you purify yourself, and then you enter, and then, and I go, because I was watching each one come back, and they come with a face and they leave with a different face. The original face comes about peaceful, alive, alert, freedom,
and
totally
that's
free.
and I've even heard some people had, and I've noticed this in my life, if there's an emotional pattern, it comes up to be purged out and healed. And I'm kind of wondering, how many intentions can you put in one?
As many as you want. There is no limit. You're talking about infinite love,
Yeah.
Robert. And some people have asked me this. This is a good question. Like, they're shy. Am I greedy about asking for all these things? I said, put even more and make it so big, so grand. The grander, the better. And Dr. Tiller actually described in the autistic children's intention, when he was meditating on that, the field, they stacked like five of the devices. He said the field was so high in his living room when they were imprinting. He said it was, and they broke down in tears. It was that
Yeah,
powerful for him and Jean. They started crying. And
that's one.
so, yeah, to lift these children out of, and their parents, out of this feeling of loss and lack of direction, because medicine treats them as though they're broken and they're twisted and they can't help them, and special education, and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to just try and get these kids just function in their environment, in their home. So the field was so high, and I think you should make your intention and revise it, come back to it as much as you want. And in the field, and I think I wrote, be radically present. Right now your intentions are already fully known to the relic, I mean, to the Buddha masters, and some of it is unconscious. You don't know. But the moment you start writing, that writing it down renders it physical, and there's power in writing it down. So I salute you. That's why I said, write it down and be radically present, and don't be afraid to revise it, add more. You betcha, add
Yeah,
more.
so that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm kind of seeing the room as I've seen it in the past. I've been there a few times. I highly recommend that anyone that's watching that. I mean, there's still time to go. I'm just gonna make a plug for the uh,
Yes,
for,
yes.
for the Way Mountain Temple and the Dharma Treasury Temple in California. One's in Rosemead, and the other one is in San Francisco, or right either in the city or outside. I haven't been, but what an awesome opportunity to have essentially free free guidance, free higher power guidance, and an
Yes.
upliftment of your own internal battery, your energy field. And I think Dr. Hawkins at one point had said that when you have such a, I don't know if he used the relics as an example, but it would stay for in the auric field for a long time. So
there's karmic merit.
yeah.
There's karmic merit to go see the relics. And Dr. Hawkins and Susan Hawkins themselves came to the Sedona tour. Right after it left our home, it came to Sedona. And of course, my brother and I flew to Sedona. I mean, my God, with Dr. Hawkins, and we helped set it up, and he was there. It was like meeting his old friend. And Lama Zopa said the relics are a way. They're a pathway to show you home. That's why I'm saying that I felt at home in Minneapolis, in Utah Monastery. I went, oh, what am I doing in a clinic? But that's my job. That's my commitment, my pathway in this lifetime. So I don't turn away from it, but I sure know that I respect that scientific pathway. And like Dr. Hawkins said, now make yourself aware and your patients aware of their spiritual responsibility.